On behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
Kamala Harris will never be my president!
Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Welcome to Street Politics. My name is Reese. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the page. Well, she did it. She accepted the nomination.
And so, on behalf of the people, on behalf of every American, regardless of party, race, gender, or the language your grandmother speaks, on behalf of my mother and everyone who has ever set out on their own unlikely journey, on behalf of Americans like the people I grew up with, people who work hard, chase their dreams, and look out for one another, on behalf of everyone whose story could only be written in the greatest nation on earth, I accept your nomination to be President of the United States of America.
That was certainly better than the unwritten comedy I have in my head. Thank you all so much for coming out and the 4 days of love and affection. I do not accept the nomination. However, I would like to promote my new line from Fashion Nova. I'll take this one, because we cannot have Trump back.
Donald Trump is like an old boyfriend who you broke up with, but he just won't go away. He has spent the last 4 years spinning the block, trying to get back into a relationship with the American people. Bro, we broke up with you for a reason.
Yo, my man Hakeem killed it. I got a whole video all about he and AOC. The link will be in the description. But back to Kamala.
I believe America cannot truly be prosperous unless Americans are fully able to make their own decisions about their own lives, especially on matters of heart and home. But tonight, in America, too many women are not able to make those decisions. And let's be clear about how we got here. Donald Trump handpicked members of the United States Supreme Court to take away reproductive freedom. And now he brags about it. In his words, quote, "I did it and I'm proud to have done it," end quote. Well, I'll tell you, over the past 2 years, I've traveled across our country, and women have told me their stories. Husbands and fathers have shared theirs. Stories of women miscarrying in a parking lot, developing sepsis, losing the ability to ever again have children, all because doctors are afraid they may go to jail for caring for their patients. Couples just trying to grow their family, cut off in the middle of IVF treatments. Children who have survived sexual assault, potentially being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. This is what's happening in our country because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
I can't speak for Indian households, but I've certainly heard that said in that tone many times in the black household.
Simply put, they are out of their minds. And one must ask, why exactly is it that they don't trust women? Well, we trust women. We trust women. And when Congress passes a bill to restore reproductive freedom, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law.
Oh, I can tell you why they don't trust women. Because they can't be trusted. That is simple projection 101. You know that one partner in a relationship who just swears the other person is cheating, only to find out later just a litany of indiscretions in their phone and an Ashley Madison account? Now, I can tell you why they don't trust women. Because they can't be trusted.
And we know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025, written by his closest advisors, and its sum total is to pull our country back to the past. But America, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back to when Donald Trump tried to cut Social Security and Medicare. We are not going back to when he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, when insurance companies could deny people with pre-existing conditions. We are not going to let him eliminate the Department of Education that funds our public schools. We are not going to let him end programs like Head Start that provide preschool and child care for our children. America, we are not going back. And we are charting a new way forward.
And just in case you were wondering what back looked like.
And know this, I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists. I will not cozy up to tyrants and dictators like Kim Jong-un who are rooting for Trump. Because, you know, they know he is easy to manipulate with flattery and favors.
And we got a reminder this very week just how easy it is to manipulate Donald Trump.
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
It could have been Barack Hussein Obama, perhaps we should ask him. Now, he was very nasty last night. I try and be nice to people, you know, but it's a little tough when they get personal. Please, again, remember, please, sir, don't get personal, talk about policy. Let me ask you about that. We're going to do a free poll. Here are the two questions. Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? Ready? Should I get personal? Should I not get personal? I don't know. My advisors are fired.
It's easy to manipulate with flattery and favors. They know Trump won't hold autocrats accountable because he wants to be an autocrat himself. And as president, I will never waver in defense of America's security and ideals, because in the enduring struggle between democracy and tyranny, I know where I stand and I know where the United States belongs.
Yeah, y'all remember the Trump years? Waking up and having to check the internet to see what potential international crisis or conflict we might have gotten ourselves into because he got his feelings hurt. All of the stress and strain that comes with an unrestrained child having access to all the codes and all the buttons. Now think about that, except without having to be reelected.
Fellow Americans, this election is not only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation. In many ways, Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol, where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames. And now, for an entirely different set of crimes, he was found guilty of fraud by a jury of everyday Americans and separately found liable for committing sexual abuse. And consider what he intends to do if we give him power again. Consider his explicit intent to set free violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers at the Capitol. His explicit intent to jail journalists, political opponents, and anyone he sees as the enemy. His explicit intent to deploy our active duty military against our own citizens. Consider the power he will have, especially after the United States Supreme Court just ruled that he would be immune from criminal prosecution. Just imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails, and how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States, not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself.
I'm old enough to remember when a candidate didn't need to assert their support of the peaceful transfer of power. Now it's partisan. Thanks, MAGA.
With this election, our nation with this election has a precious, fleeting opportunity to move past the bitterness, cynicism, and divisive battles of the past a chance to chart a new way forward. Not as members of any one party or faction, but as Americans. And let me say, I know there are people of various political views watching tonight, and I want you to know, I promise to be a president for all Americans. You can always trust me to put country above party and self, to hold sacred America's fundamental principles, from the rule of law to free and fair elections to the peaceful transfer of power.
Now, this was a theme of the entire week, this message of uniting America and juxtaposing the vibe of this campaign and this party with the anger and grievance on the right. Pete Buttigieg talked about this as well.
Yes, politics at its worst can be ugly, crushing, demeaning, but it doesn't have to be. At its best, politics can be empowering, uplifting. It can even be a kind of soulcraft. My faith teaches me that the world isn't made up of good people and bad people, but rather that each of us is capable of good and bad things. And I believe leaders matter because of what they bring out in each of us, the good or the bad.
The link to that video will be in the description as well. Now, Harris did have some important mending to do in her own party with respect to Gaza.
President Biden and I are working around the clock, because now is the time to get a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And let me be clear, I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time, what has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost. Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Now, I thought that she balanced that extremely well, but the DNC didn't, nor did the Democratic Party. This is the end of a whole week of people complaining why there were no Palestinian voices that were allowed up on stage. Here is what I don't understand. How is it that as a party, you are going to deal with allegations of anti-Semitism coming from the right at the same time as you have people demonstrating your convention all week asserting that you are engaging in supporting a genocide? How do you do both? How do you do both? Democrats, pick a struggle. It's time to pick a struggle. Either decide that you are going to side with affirming the humanity of Palestinians and deal with the blowback coming from the right, which, by the way, won't last all that long once all the Zionists realize just how shallow the love for Jews runs in deep red MAGA country. Or you decide that you're going to go hard body in with Israel and Netanyahu, cut off that stream of criticism you have coming from the right, But that leaves the people that are protesting and the people that are here for Palestinian lives with a very tough choice, considering just how in with Netanyahu and the Zionists Donald Trump has been. You have to give them that choice if that's who they want to elect. But either way, pick a struggle. All right, it's time to land this plane.
So let's get out there. Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all.
Now, technically, the most extraordinary story ever told was the legend of Bagger Vance. But this one is pretty good too. Now, as for Donald Trump,
simply put, they are out of their minds.
just how much have they lost their minds? Well, this was Trump tweeting all throughout Kamala Harris's speech. Gotta make sure you get those political points from all those head coaches that have grievance with the assistant coach taking all the credit. And by the way, these were how well his people were taking the DNC.
Survivors of crime.
No
to
way.
remind them, no one should be made to fight alone.
Kamala Harris will never be my president. Whoa!
Oh, they lost their minds, all right. Even Fox News couldn't take Trump.
Beaten Joe Biden in a Democrat primary. I have no doubt about it. And they made it absolutely impossible for him. They made it that you have to get 60, 70% of the vote just to get in. And you know what?
President.
In the end, the Democrats did the same thing to Joe Biden. They threw Joe Biden out of the party.
And that's
they
why
did
we
the
saw a
same
different
thing
night
as they did to
tonight.
RFK.
Mr. President, thank you so
very
much.
much, sir.
I don't know if he's gonna make it to the debate. That is, if he even intends to.
I can tell you this. I don't blame Donald Trump for not wanting to debate Kamala. I've been married to a black woman for 40 years, and I ain't won one debate. I'm owing $93,000.
Never interrupt a comedian on a roll. Take us out, DL.
Now, of course, Trump is saying that Kamala isn't black. I guarantee you this. Kamala's been black a lot longer than Trump's been a Republican. And if he keeps sliding in the polls the way he is, the only way he can keep Kamala out of the White House is if he buys it and refuses to rent it to her. Of course, Kamala's getting broad support. They got black men for Kamala, white men for Kamala, Latinos and Asians for Kamala. They even have Republicans for Kamala. Republicans for Kamala. I guess Donald Trump will finally know what it's like when you get left for a younger woman.
Sincere thanks to everybody who's reached out to me and submitted suggestions for videos. Keep them coming. I take submissions for ideas for a video, suggestions for Racist of the Week. If you have something that just troubles you, or you just want to send me a note, because I love getting those notes, go ahead and shoot me an email at reese@reesewaters.com. I also have a newsletter that I send out periodically, so you'll be receiving that as well. You can also sign up on my website, reesewaters.com.